So I really want to get this done so I can deliver it to my customer tomorrow, and so I'm going to be burning the midnight oil here. Although for me it's only 20 after 8 in the evening. It's still pretty early here, but I know for many of you living around the world, it could potentially be early morning there right now. So thank you for joining me if you're watching live, and let's get started. I've got to get this motherboard prepped first and foremost. And I also, because we're going to be changing the motherboard, I need to get this I/O shield out of here before I forget. So let's just let's knock that I/O shield out. Get that out of the way. I'm done with that. I've got all the parts listed in the video notes below the video. As I mentioned, this motherboard that we have here, the Gigabyte B250M DS3H, today, December 27th until I think December 29th, this board is $39.99 on Amazon and Newegg. I don't know why it's so cheap. It's a really good deal. I'll be honest, I think it's a good deal at $69.99, its normal price. So if you're interested in getting a good price on a decent board, this is the way to go. You can use 6th or 7th gen Intel CPUs on this, socket 1151. And let's see what we get in here. We've got the cardboard, some directions, a new I/O shield, and a driver disc. So you know what? I don't need the cables of the driver disc just yet, and we'll throw the instructions back in there because we don't need those. All the spare parts continue to go in the motherboard box, and we're going to work on the motherboard box so I don't scratch the countertop. Oh, I hate when they tape those closed. I don't know why they do that. I could just fold it over. There we go. Same electrical level. Pull the board out by the edges, set it down, chunk that. All right, there's our board. It looks good. Going to be using onboard video here. It's built in with the Intel Core i5. This is the i5 7500 with the built-in Intel HD Graphics 630. Great for business use. We can power at least 2 monitors, maybe 3, because this has HDMI. It might do all 3 at the same time. I don't know. Customer's only using 1 anyway. For the RAM, we've got Corsair Vengeance. This is 8 gigs, 2 sticks of 4, 2133 DDR4. And we're going to be using a Samsung 850 EVO M.2. This is just, I think, 250 gigs. Right now, they're running an old Vertex 3 from OCZ, which is still in the old hard drive cage here. That's only 120 gigs. It's many years old, and it was probably more money than this is. This was more money than this is because, hey, it's tech. Everything gets cheaper pretty fast. Let me start cutting the tape on these boxes so I don't get frustrated with this a little later on here. So we're going to break the tape on the CPU box, we're going to break the tape on the RAM, and we're going to break the tape on the M.2. We're going to reuse the case, we're going to reuse the optical drive, we're going to reuse the power supply, and that'll be that. We'll have to clone the old SSD onto the M.2. We'll get to that later. Right now, I guess I need to move the camera to show you a close-up of the motherboard prep. I hate moving this camera live, but I don't have much choice. I guess while I've got the wide angle, let's go ahead and get this new I/O shield put in. Everything on this case, this is a Silverstone Temgen case, and if you look at my video library, you'll find the original build video for this computer back from 2013, still up there. Must not be too late. There's 200 people there watching live, so I guess it's not too late, or you guys are night owls. All right, I/O shield is installed. Easy peasy. Let's just get this out of the way. And then let's see if I can get you a better view. grab this camera. This is going to be a little tricky. Let's see what I can do here. Come on. I know there's a way to... Somewhere. There it is. I'm going to do it like this, I think. Yeah, that's going to work fine. And I'll just move this stuff. All right. Good, good, good. Love it when a plan comes together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this where I can work on it and you can see it. Can you imagine those two things going hand in hand? So the first thing I want to do on this board is I'm going to go ahead and put the M.2 drive in because it's so easy and just get it out of the way. There's no particular order. You don't have to do it that way. There's only one M.2 slot here on this board. It's right here. I realize you guys may not be able to see that. Let's see if I can get you a little more light. Let's try this. That should light up the subject. All right, so M.2 drive, which is going to go, it's kind of hard for you guys to see because there's a slot here. And the I/O ports are here, so it's just going to remove this screw right here because this is the socket right here. And we've got our M.2 drive. I'm going to have to switch over from a different view. It's kind of confusing me at the moment. Let's go right there. Okay. All right, so here's the M.2. Let's get this out of the box. That's the way it's packed. Get rid of the box. Great, they have that piece of plastic there. And then there's another one right here with the instructions. We'll keep those and chuck that. And now it's just a matter of getting the M.2 drive out. Remember, always bend the plastic, don't bend the circuit board when you're taking memory or M.2 drives. When they want that packaging in there so it doesn't slide around and get damaged. And then this is just going to slide. Boy, I wish I could just find you a better angle. This is going to slide into the socket right here. I'm going to push it in. See, it's kind of springy. Turn it around. Maybe you can see better this way. I still got the screw on the end of my magnetized screwdriver. Just hold that down. And secure it. Don't over tighten it. All it's doing is just holding that down and securing it. You don't have to torque it down. We're using the OEM fan here, so we can go ahead and take this out of the box. It's our central processing unit. Our instructions, don't need the box. Got a go faster sticker on there. CPU, set that aside. In our heatsink and fan, which has a thermal compound already applied, don't want to touch that or get it contaminated in any way with dust, fingerprints, oils from your skin, etc. So we're just going to put that out of the way, and then this is just garbage. Now we'll turn this back around this way, and we're going to install our CPU. We're going to release the retention lever, which exposes the delicate socket beneath. We're going to take the CPU out, holding it solely by the edges. We'll get rid of that container. We're going to line it up so the arrow on the corner of the CPU lines up with the arrow on the motherboard, as well as there's little notches on the left and the right side. It's kind of hard to see. There's little notches, and those are going to line up with the notches in the socket, and you're just going to very gently pick 2 corners to line up, and then just gently set it down. That's all you do. There's no insertion force. You just gently set it down. Then we can lower this lid. Now this retention lever is going to have a lot of tension on it now, so we've got to use our muscles to push down, and you'll see that plastic lid just popped up. And we need to save this. If there's any reason to send the motherboard back for warranty, they're going to need that socket covered up if we ever remove the CPU. And generally when you send the motherboard in for an RMA, if you need to do that, you would not ship it with a CPU. Here, the final step is our RAM. We're going to install in sockets 1 and 2, which on this case are going to be the gray slots. When I say case, I mean instance. Obviously, this is not a computer case. But here on the written on the circuit board, it says DDR1, 3, 2, and 4. That means this one's 1, this one's 3, this one's 2, this one's 4. We use 1 and 2 first. You'll see they're a different color. They're both gray. We're going to use the gray ones. Check your motherboard manual if you're using a different board to verify that you're installing your memory in the recommended sockets. If you install it in the wrong sockets, it will still work in most cases. It just won't work as well, and you won't know the difference. You'll just think you did it right because it worked. So always double check that manual. Just takes a moment. If you don't have the manual, you can go to the manufacturer's website and download the manual in PDF form. This motherboard, as you saw, didn't come with a manual, which is fine by me. If I need anything, I much prefer to go to Gigabyte's website, go to the support side, and download the manual for this board. Each one of these memory sticks represents 4 gigs of RAM. Try to avoid touching the gold connectors. Bend the plastic until you can get it out. You can hold the RAM safely anywhere along the metal here. This is all good. Sometimes there's plastic, usually there's plastic covering up the logo. We can take that off. You don't have to, but I prefer to. And then we're going to install, I'm going to install on the socket closest to me, so that way you guys can see, right? Because if I install on this socket, you won't be able to see behind it. So one corner, other corner, that's locked in place. Make sure those retention levers are open before you get started. I'm going to check this one, see if we have plastic. Of course, there's going to be plastic. Let's get that off of there. And line it up the same direction. Lay it in, set it rather, into the slots very gently, no force. Make sure everything's lined up correctly, and as long as it's lined up correctly, one corner, other corner. That's that. Finally, we have the heatsink to put on. Moving right along, aren't we? We are almost done here. I've got the heatsink. You'll see I'm holding it so I don't touch that thermal compound. This cable is wrapped up for shipping purposes. You definitely want this completely unwrapped from here, or this fan will not spin, and you're going to have a serious overheating problem. We're just going to line this up with the logo facing the back of the board closest to where the CPU fan header is, so I don't have to run the cable around in circles. That opens up opportunity for the fan, for the cable to get caught up into this fan right here, and if that happens, you won't even know it because these things are so quiet now, and your system's going to start running hot. Sometimes it won't even, you'll build it, right, and you'll say, oh, I'll take care of the wiring later, and then through moving the computer around for any reason whatsoever, the cable moves, it gets caught up in the fan, and, well, you start wondering why you're having performance issues. So I'm just going to set that in and press down any corner, then do the exact opposite corner, then do either of the remaining 2, and then, of course, finally, you have no choice but to do the last one. Just push down on those until they click in place. You can pick the whole motherboard up by the heatsink and look underneath, and you can verify that those little plastic tabs are all coming through the board. This does require a bit of force. Some younger children may not have the upper body strength to do it. So once again, you could very easily think that it's installed when in fact it is not fully seated. I've seen that a number of times. Now I want to grab a nylon zip tie, and I'm going to tie that CPU power cable up, CPU fan power cable up before I install it into the case. It's just going to make my life easier. So let me just grab my zip ties here. There you go. That's good enough. And then I'm going to cut that pigtail off of there. And finally, white plug, white connector. If you're not sure where it is, be sure to check your motherboard manual. It'll be labeled as CPU fan. Usually it's around that area of the motherboard, the top part, which because of this case, it'll actually be going in upside down, so the top is the bottom. That's why it's hard to make those kind of distinctions in a video when you don't know if the person watching, you don't know the design of their case, right? So I don't know if it's going to be up or down for you. All I can do is explain to you so that you can figure it out when it's your turn. Now, let me move this camera back. Bear with me for a moment here, folks. It is live, and I am the cameraman and the audio guy and the talent and the scriptwriter and the editor and the administrator. Yep, I'm going to fire myself if I don't do a good job. Let's see if I can get this light moved over here a little bit, and we'll aim it. Just bring it down a little more, Okay. All right. And is it zoomed in too much? No, you can still see me. Good. All right, motherboard is prepped. We're done. This board is ready to fire up, just the way it is right now. All we have to do is add power, a keyboard, and mouse, and we're ready to rock and roll. So what I'm going to do is get this mounted into the case. Let's get this stuff moved out of the way. And before I get started, hello everybody in the chat. Welcome into the live stream. You could put a 1060 in there and you have a gaming rig. That's absolutely true. Yeah, except you probably want you probably want a little more power than this power supply offers. All right, we got Nathan saying hello. Ricky says hello. Harry says hello. James Tucker says, put it in i9. No problem, James. You send me the i9 and the motherboard and the RAM, and I will put it in. Chris's Tech Channel says hi from Moorhead, Minnesota. John Hugh Lockhart says, good day, Gary from Australia. Michael Schaffenberg says hello. Bud says hello. Zeez is saying hi. Hazavuma is hi from Missouri. Angry Dad 1969 says hello. Is a 450 watt power supply good enough for a 1050 Ti? Yeah, but I'd probably go another 100 watts. I'd probably go minimum 500 just to give you some overhead. All right, so let's see if we can get this board installed. Let's bring this case down. Once again, we're going to have a little difficulty getting you an angle here to see what's going on, but because we're going from a micro ATX board to a micro ATX board, all the motherboard standoffs should already be in the right place. We shouldn't have to move anything. Our cable management shouldn't even have to be modified. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the board in. In fact, what I'll do is let me turn it around the other way so you can at least see the I/O ports getting lined up. There we go. Yeah, those two standoffs are in the right place. Ooh, maybe not. Something's different. Okay. There's a standoff here I have to move. I didn't think I was going to have to do that, but I do. And I have my 5mm socket for that right here. And what I have to do, pick this up so you can see. These two standoffs, I'm not sure how well you can see them, they need to be in line with the exact same place as these two standoffs. So this silver one has to be moved down to the lower position. So let's see, righties, tighties, lefties, loosies. That's it. We're gonna take out that silver one. And we're just gonna drop it down to the next position. It's really the only choice you have other than removing it altogether for anything in that area. And then we're just gonna tighten that down. Not too much. Again, these things strip out pretty easy. When you strip out a standoff on your case, you're stripping out the thread on the case. That's just not good times. All right, so let's put this back how I had it. All right, those two line up. It looks like we're going to use a total of 6. On the motherboard, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what I want to see. I'm going to bring the board in. We're going to line up the ports first. This has got to go lower. Usually I don't look at it from outside, I look at it from inside. I've got the board upside down the way it needs to be. Usually helps to put it on a little bit of an angle to get those ports to line up. Those all look like they're lining up to me. And then I've got the screws right here in this bowl, and I want to pull out the ones for the board. And you know what? I'm going to use my electric screwdriver to do this as quickly as possible. I don't recommend that you use one on your builds. It's very easy to cross-thread a screw and not even realize it. So it's best to put these screws in by hand. Now I've got 2 started, so I should be able to just turn this up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, we need some more light in there, don't we? Let's see if we can get some light in there. That's going to help a little bit, I guess. Really need the light to be on the other side, don't I? See if we can get it moved. Let's get over here. It's a little better, isn't it? All right. So we got that one started. We got to go here. You see I'm not tightening these down yet. I need there to be play in the motherboard so it can be wiggled around as necessary to line everything up. Obviously this has one less socket because remember I was using this for the Wi-Fi card and the board doesn't even go that far. So this board's a little smaller, but hey, that's tech for you. Everything gets smaller and more powerful and cheaper. So I should be worth like $1 million. All right, so I'm gonna go down here. And then one last one. That's good. We had 6. You had the right number. And now we can tighten them all down. This screwdriver has an auto-off clutch set at a torque setting of 3. So all of these screws are going to be at the same torque. That is not necessary. That's just my OCD. Don't over-tighten them. All they do is hold the motherboard in position. You don't want that to vibrate free over time. So you just secure the screws accordingly. Just set this over here for right now. We'll come back to that. Now, we've got motherboard power to hook up. That's just going to go right there. Clip is going to face the outside edge. We've got our 8-pin CPU power down here. Clip again faces the outside edge. These cables have all been sort of they've got a little memory in how they were. They're already sort of pre-bent into the wrong direction. The other motherboard was a little different. So we just have to bring this up and around a little bit. Remember, everything on this case is upside down, so this is normally the little CPU power connector you see me hook on the upper left, and now it's in the lower right. And it's no easier to get on. You know what? I'll just put on half of it, and now let's put on the other half. See if I can do that. This is a problem with cable management, is I didn't really leave myself much slack. But it looks good, right? This is a little difficult to do in this position, but I'm trying to give you guys a view, even though my hand is probably covering up most of your view. Doing the best I can. There it goes. Okay, so motherboard power is hooked up. This is all the front port audio, LEDs, switches. This is a fan, the front fan. And that can go, let's see, I see a USB 3 right there. Let's plug the USB 3 in. It's going to go right like this. Like this. Then the front audio, which was running up here before. And then all that's left are the front port switches and LEDs, which I have to do backwards and upside down. This should be an interesting challenge. Let's start with power LED, which is the split one. That'll go on the bottom, which is normally the top. But again, because of this case design, everything is upside down. Okay, hard drive. That's power LED. Then the hard drive LED will go on above that, on the two pins directly above it. And then the power switch, where's the power switch at? Right here, that's going to go right beside the power LED on that bottom row. And then the reset switch is going to go directly above that, right beside the hard drive LED and above the power switch. That's it. We should be ready for our power on, except I never did find this fan header. Let's see. I know there's a fan header on here somewhere. Times like this, you need glasses and a flashlight. You guys might even see it better than I can, to be honest. Let's see. Fan header, fan header. I know it's got one. It's got one here somewhere. I'm looking all around the edges. Come on, you got to give me at least one fan header. Anybody? Fan header? Hello? Just one? Just the one? Is that too much? Too much to ask for one fan header? What the heck? I know I'm in a hurry. SATA ports, yes. CPU fan. There is not an additional fan header on this board. Is that right? I don't really need that fan hooked up anyway. I just would like to hook it up because it was hooked up before. Shouldn't be this hard to find a fan header. I don't think I've got one. It's not important. I'll have to check the motherboard manual just to see if I'm not seeing it. I can always feed it directly off the power supply if I really want it hooked up that badly. Again, I don't really think it's necessary. It's just got a really nice big fan in there. I don't know, you can see how big this fan is located inside of this case. Big old fan right there. So it doesn't have to spin very fast to move a lot of air. Let's fire it up. Let's see if it works. That's all it took. It's that quick. Got my HDMI cable. I'll go ahead and plug that in to the HDMI port here on the back. And I need a power cable. Wasn't ready for that, was I? I'm going to grab this power cable. Plug it in. See, the power supply is in the off position. Power. Switch. So far, so good. I'm not going to hook up a keyboard and mouse yet. There's no operating system. Let's cut this light so I can see the screen. And ideally, when I hit the button, I've got it all right. I should see the power light come on. I should see the hard drive light blink. Power switch should activate. You know, everything. The CPU fan should turn. Here we go. That's a good sign. There's our power light. I'm hearing a fan turn. There's only one in there. Yeah, that's a CPU fan, all right. There's probably going to be a BIOS update available for this, so I will go check that next. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Sometimes it goes into BIOS. Sometimes you just get the reboot and select proper boot device. Either way, we're good to go there. Hit the button again, turn it off. Another thing, I could check the reset switch if I hit the button, turn it back on again real quick. And let's just make sure reset works. Just take a minute here. It's going to pop up and let us know there's no bootable device. Hit reset. Yeah, reset's working. So we're good. I'm turn it off. And I'm going to go grab a BIOS. I'm going to borrow this box so I know the model number I need to look for. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to type in the model of the motherboard. I don't need to type the manufacturer in because the manufacturers, generally they all have different model numbers. And that's as specific as you need to be since they don't share model numbers. Not generally. It'll know the only one who makes that model is that manufacturer. So I go to Google, I type in this case it's a B250M-DS3H. Then I type in the word BIOS and I hit enter, and the first link that comes up is from Gigabyte. I click on that and I'm going to go to down. There's two support buttons, one at the top. I don't want that one. I want the one just below it. The top one is for generic support. The lower one is support related to the product you're looking at on your screen. And the current BIOS version is F8 from November 1st. Let's see which BIOS this system has installed before I do anything else. So I gotta come back out here and I need a keyboard and mouse. So guess what, guys? I'm stealing the keyboard and mouse off of the streaming computer. And because I have, well, I guess I didn't hook up the card reader because that's gonna be USB 2. Yeah, I see the cable now. I gotta hook that up. But I can use this. This will be fine. Let's turn that on, and let me grab the keyboard and mouse, and let's go into the BIOS, and let's see what version we've got. We're on version F7 from July 7th, 2017. What did I say it was? F8? Let me go back and check. Yes, F8 is the latest and greatest, so I'm going to grab a spare flash drive. You want a flash drive that's 8 gigs or smaller, preferably formatted in FAT32. The motherboard may not recognize. Actually, I think you can go 16 gigs, up to 16 gigs. But the smaller the better, because the flash drive file is going to be pretty small. And I'm going to extract the zip file that contains everything needed to flash the BIOS, and all I want is the actual BIOS file itself. I don't want the auto-exec, and I don't want the flash.exe file. I just want the file that, there's only 3 files, right? There's the auto-exec file, the flash executable, and then the BIOS file itself. And I'm going to just copy that BIOS file right onto my flash drive. It's about 8 megs. And like I said, the flash drive has to be FAT32 or FAT16. With FAT32, you can't format anything, I think, greater than 32 gigs in FAT32. If I'm trying to remember, it's been such a long time, I don't remember. But the smaller the flash drive, the better. A lot of people, when they buy flash drives, are always looking for the greatest capacity. But when it comes to system utilities and programs like memtest and other things you see me use flash drives for, these little 2 gig flash drives are gold. I'm going to cut power, plug my flash drive in. The only thing on this flash drive, formatted FAT32, 2 gig flash drive, the only thing on it is the BIOS file, and I recommend you do the same thing to avoid any confusion over picking the wrong file and accidentally flashing, if it were even possible, accidentally flashing the wrong BIOS. I'm going to hit the end button on the keyboard. That should bring up the QFlash utility, which it did. This is unique to Gigabyte. I want to update BIOS, enter. There's the file that I downloaded right there. I'm going to select it, hit enter. It's going to verify that's the right file, and now it's updating, and we're going to have that latest BIOS here in just a moment. So we're at 10%. Carry the case fan is by the CPU power. I didn't see it there. Let me grab a flashlight. No, there is no fan header. You guys can look up the manual. You can download the... Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's over by the... Yeah, you're sort of right. The fan header on this board is by the 8-pin CPU power connector. The cables are bent over it. That's why I can't see it. But it does have... I knew it didn't make sense that every motherboard should have at least one. So hopefully... And thank you for your help. Hopefully the cable will reach. It's pretty far. It's going to ruin my cable management feng shui. Updating the BIOS somewhere in the 70 percentile range. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. Here's our first boot after the BIOS update. It's doing this all on its own. Whenever you update the BIOS, just let the system work. Don't interrupt it. All right, there's our Gigabyte logo. We've got our latest BIOS. Should tell us there's no bootable device. Perfect. All right, shut it back off. I want to remove the flash drive and put that away. It'll be erased. I keep it empty. This is used for temporary utilities, and I always erase it when I'm done so that it's ready for me the next time I need it. I don't have to go looking and finding out what's on it. Do I still need to save that? Can I erase it? If I erase it now that I'm done with it, it's empty and I know it's ready for me to use next time. So the fan header, let's get back to the fan header real quick, and that USB 2. The fan header is located under here, and the fan has a very short cable that is not going to go that far. Oh, wait a minute. Because of my wire management, I actually ran the cable around the top of the fan with a zip tie. So if I cut the zip tie free, which is all the way in the back, if I can do that in the dark without actually cutting the cable, that would be good. There we go. And then maybe I can just reroute it across the bottom instead. I think that'll work. But it is really, really hard for me to see in there. I definitely need a flashlight. Not quite sure how well you guys probably can't see it at all. It's dark. Let's see if I can bring some more light in here. Help us both, right? Of course, I'm going to stand right in front of it, so I'm not quite sure how well that's going to work out. But anyway, so behind this cable, there's our fan header right there. It's a 3-pin fan, 4-pin header. And even I am blocking my own light. There it is. I'll deal with the cable management in a little bit. And then we've got the front port, the card reader, which for some reason has no slack at all. No slack. So I'm not going to deal with that right now because I don't need it. Not yet. I'll do it before I deliver the computer, but I got a lot of work still ahead of me and I want to get this done tonight. So let me bring this light back down, because the next thing I have to do is probably the thing most of you are interested in, and that is, how am I going to get the data off of the solid state drive and onto the M.2 drive? So let's go ahead and take the solid state drive out of here. I've got it in a little adapter. Let's just move some stuff out of my way. There's 2 screws on each side holding the drive in place. This is the OCZ Vertex 3. I think I have an install date on here. It just says July 2013 is all it says. I guess that solid state drive is about 4 years old. It's certainly in a lot better condition operationally than most 4-year-old mechanical hard drives. Solid state drives are so much more reliable, so much faster, use less power. But if you need a lot of storage, if you need capacity, you really don't have a choice but to go with a mechanical drive. So I am going to I'm going to borrow this SATA cable from the optical drive. We're just going to borrow. Well, you know what? I'll leave that there. I'll grab one out of the motherboard box. Wait a minute. How do I do that? No, I'll leave those in the package. I've got a spare one in here. Just want to grab a spare SATA cable. I only need it temporarily. Once this is done, I need it again. This is, I think, from the previous build. one of my previous live demos where I had another bad motherboard. It's 2. That's not looking good for Gigabyte for me to get 2 boards that are bad, that are right around the same age. These boards should be more reliable than that, and I might need to reconsider using Gigabyte in the future. I mean, they're out of warranty, right? So, but I'm just disappointed. I expect better lifespan out of these drives. I mean, out of these motherboards than 4 years. In fact, I expect them to last, for all intents and purposes, forever, for a minimum of 10 years. And anything that doesn't last 10 years under normal usage, you know, there are better products available. And if you get one every once in a while, you know, that's typical, excusable. I got 2. Doing about the same time. All right. So there's our data cable, and now let's give it some power. Come on. Cooperate. I have to put it on in the right direction, I guess. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to let it hang out there because there's nothing for it to short out against. It's solid state. I'm going to go back here and grab my copy of Acronis. It's Acronis Day today. We're going to be using it twice today. This is Acronis Trimage 2018. This is the home version. It's on Amazon now for I think $32. I put a link to it in the video notes of the previous video. I can add it to this one as well. Put that back here like so. There we go. Let's turn it on and see if it'll boot. These can go into the trash. Oh, start Windows normally. Oh, it's trying to boot to the solid state drive. I don't want that. Let's go to turn it back on and do F12. F12, 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 F12. Should bring up a boot menu. There it is. UEFI USB disk. That's what I want. Acronis Trimage 64-bit is number 2. And it's loading right now. Here we go. So here we're going to do under Tools and Utilities, or you can go over here to Tools, same thing. Let me just duck down, maybe you guys can see better. We're going to do Tools and Utilities, Clone Disk, Automatic, click Next. There's Disk 1, which is the OCZ Vertex 3. Disk 3 is a 2 gig USB disk. That's the flash drive that has Acronis on it. So we want to select Disk 1 and hit Next. Now it's going to look throughout the system to see what we can boot to, and it sees the M.2 drive right here. It says Disk 2 not initialized, 232.9 gigs, that's 250 gigs. Click Next and proceed. And that's it. Acronis is making my life so much easier. Some crazy person just donated $200 to the channel. Oh my gosh, that's very generous. Who did that? Shout out for James. James, you have my attention. Wow, James Rosso. I don't see, is James in there? The Can donated $5 Canadian. Thank you, The Can. And James Rasso, $200 donation. I don't think that's the biggest donation I've had during a live stream. That's very generous, James. Well, I hope James will watch the replay after the show if he's gone. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Very generous. So thank you. Oh, there's James. Here he is. Thanks to you, I built 3 PCs and I want to build more. That's awesome, James. He didn't leave. He's still in there. Very good. Well, James, what can I say? I'm humbled and I really appreciate your support on the channel. And thank you so very much. And man, I'm glad I started this live stream up tonight after all. That's awesome. All the contributions and support of the channel. You guys just rock. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So this person doesn't have a whole lot on their solid state drive. It's only 120 gig OCZ solid state drive, so it's saying 3 minutes left. This is a Cronus, so that's probably going to be closer to 10 minutes. But we're just going to wait and have that, just wait till it's done. Carry, the USB 2 plug is near the TPM plug. Well, there's a couple of USB 2s on here. I believe those white connectors, were they white? Yeah, I think the two white connectors up at the top, which is again the bottom of the board, I think those are the USB 2s. I just don't have enough slack on the cable because I did the cable management with the motherboard that it had, and the cable's really tight. I'm gonna have to take the other side panel off and see what's holding it up, probably a nylon zip tie, and give myself more slack so I can plug it in. Not a big deal. Once I make sure that the clone is complete and we can boot into Windows, then I can put the Wi-Fi card in. Same one we were having the problems with before. I imagine it's going to go in without any issues this time. Carrie, do you like Nestea? I don't drink tea or coffee, no. 200, still talking about that donation, and so they should. It's a very generous donation. In the video business, it doesn't go very far. The microphone I'm using, the Sony microphone, is $530 just for the mic. So it's not like, I don't want to sound ungrateful, but it's you guys making an, you know, if I had a lot of those, if a lot of people did that, that would be wonderful. There's certainly a lot more equipment I'd like to get. I want to get a big green screen. I got my eye on one. It's $150 from Elgato. I think it's Elgato. And it folds up nice and neat so you can put it away. And it's been out of stock for a while, but I'll get there eventually. Ringo Starr has contributed $2. That's his name. And it must be a different Ringo Starr because he only spells his with one R and the other one spells it with two. He says, Happy New Year. Thank you, Ringo, for the donation. Carrie, does your YouTube and your business sustain themselves? No, my business sustains the YouTube business. That's the way it works. If I didn't have the business, I wouldn't have... The videos cost more to make than they return back. They will return back a profit over time after, you know, depending on the popularity of the video, anywhere from 6 months to a year in most cases to cover the cost of the production. Unless I get lucky, you know, it didn't cost me anything to film the SpaceX Falcon launch. I just went out with the camera and that got 52,000 views in a week. That's pretty rare for me to see that number of views in that period of time. So that was all profit, whatever 50,000 views is. So $450 has been donated by, is it Eric Reed? He says, here, since scamming the scammers, love your approach. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that video. I had a great time making it, if you couldn't tell. And is anybody else hearing my microphone cut out? I've had a couple people say it's cutting out, but when I've played back the videos, they seem to be recording fine. I don't know if it's, yeah, so it's not my microphone. Well, a couple of people say, all right, so if the microphone's cutting out, that means you're probably streaming at too high of a bit rate. You might want to lower your resolution settings. Maybe drop it from 1080 down to 720. And if the audio continues to cut out, lower it. It's just you're apparently trying to stream too quickly on your connection. So we got, thank you for the confirmation in the chat that the audio is good. And how are we doing here? Disk was successfully cloned. Good. You know, you don't really have to click OK and close it. It's my OCD. I'm just going to hit the power switch anyway. I'm going to pull Acronis, the boot drive out. I'm going to disconnect the customer's original SSD, and we're going to set that over here. And we're done with the SATA cable. That'll be a spare part for another day. And let's flip it back on. It should boot into Windows with all the customer's programs, all the data. Some things may need to be reactivated. Things like Microsoft Office may need to be reactivated. Windows may need to be reactivated. QuickBooks, Quicken may need to be reactivated. Let's see what happens. I'm going to probably jump right, oh my gosh, that was fast. I'm going to jump in front of the screen here and hide the desktop icons just to give the customer some privacy. So you can see that it's booting. I'm going to temporarily, just for the customer's privacy, I'm going to put myself in front of the screen. And then as soon as the desktop comes up, you could probably still see the edges around me anyway. The first boot is going to take, you'll see it's still at the welcome screen. The first boot, it's still kind of recognizing all the new hardware. This is going to take longer because of that. Here we go, we're getting started, so I'm going to block your view just for a moment. And we're still at a blank desktop here, being a little paranoid. I know this customer has icons all across their desktop, so I want to give them a little privacy. And it's just going to take a minute. Hard drive light's blinking on and off. That tells me I've got the umbilical cord hooked up correctly in the right place in the right order on the motherboard. Of course, I've done that enough times. There's no excuse for me to not know how to do that. Front fan is turning now that I have it plugged into that one fan header. And I'm still sitting at a blank desktop, but it's about ready to come up. Here we go. Of course, the graphics are, there's no video driver loaded. And I've got a TeamViewer error because there's no networking. So I'm going to just take a minute as it starts recognizing new hardware. And I want to disconnect or uncheck the show desktop icons option so we have a blank desktop here. And I'm just going to let it sit there for a minute. It's loading drivers right now. It's detecting new hardware. It's loading drivers. It doesn't say it is, but it is. We've got some drivers that haven't been installed properly. That's fine. That's normal. Nothing to worry about. And oftentimes, this is what I was about to say, you'll get a message that you have to restart the computer for changes to take effect. And it should restart and get to the desktop much faster now. And then after we load the drivers, it'll go even faster than that. So I'm really impressed with how fast that just came up. Stephen Sheik has contributed $20 to the channel, says, I love your videos. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate your continued support, your kind words, and your contribution. Thank you. Ray Burke says, hi, Carrie. Just got to talk to you. Got back from dinner on the West Coast in Portland. Is this a continuation of the Wi-Fi driver problem with a new motherboard? Yes, it's a new motherboard, new RAM, new CPU, and an M.2 SSD. Do you work on laptops? I can do limited work on laptops. I can mostly change hard drives and RAM, and that's about it. All the proprietary parts of a laptop make it impossible for me to get parts, or make it very difficult. So in most cases, anything you need from a laptop, anything other than RAM or a hard drive is typically made specifically by that manufacturer for that specific model. Good luck finding those parts outside of eBay, and good luck with a warranty. I missed Michael McAllister donated, what is that, $2? Did I miss that? Douglas, could you repeat that? Douglas Biggers is in the chat room. He's a moderator tonight. You need some studio lights. Well, it doesn't help that the monitor is... The camera doesn't know this light source from a normal light source. So the camera is making the room darker because it sees this light shining at it. Michael McAllister, $2. He said, your 10-hour stream was epic. More, please. It's awesome. And I'm surprised the desktop took that long to come up. Oh, it's still loading drivers. Okay. So we're going to be back to another restart because it just loaded the driver for the SATA. When I stand in front of this monitor and I block this light, watch what the camera does. The camera is going to automatically brighten. It's going to self-adjust and make everything a bit brighter. So it's still a bit dark, admittedly, because I'm filming in my kitchen and it requires sunlight for better overall lighting. But I'm looking here on the monitor and it's not terrible. But obviously, if I step to the side and you start, shining this light from the monitor into the camera, it auto darkens. Still a little lip sync issue. That's probably in the OBS software. I was messing around trying to get the best video as possible, and when I did that, I had reset everything. I've got to put a 300 millisecond delay on the audio, and I will do that on the next live stream. I can't do it in the middle of a stream, but thank you for letting me know that. Will you update the BIOS to make sure it is not affected? You must have just joined us. That was already done about 20 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. Other people are saying the audio sync is fine. All right, well, usually I have to offset the audio by 300 milliseconds, and I might have reset it. I'll have to check it. Not much I can do now during the live stream. So we're back up at the desktop. It looks like it's done auto-loading the drivers, and now we can manually give it the drivers for the video card. And actually, let's take a look. Let's go to the device manager. We'll go to the control panel. And let's see what's missing. System, device manager. You'll see there's our CPU, Core i5 7500, running at 3.4 gigahertz, 16 gigs of RAM, 15.9 gigs is usable because we're using 0.1 for video, for the built-in graphics card. TeamViewer is really going to annoy me, so let me exit out of TeamViewer. And I don't have the optical drive hooked up yet. So let me shut it down and hook up the optical drive, and then we can install the drivers for those devices in the device manager that had the exclamation points. You don't need to go to the manufacturer's website and download the latest drivers. You can if you want to. It's not necessary. It used to be necessary back in the day. And if you're running Windows 10 pretty much automates all of this on its own, and it's pretty rare that you have to download any drivers at all with Windows 10. Just depends on the hardware you're using. If you have anything unusual like video capture cards, oftentimes Windows 10 won't see those automatically, but they're not required to boot. I'm just going to plug the optical drive in any of these sockets here. It doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to go with the one that's easiest for me to reach, which is this one right here. And let's turn it back on. And I think I left the little disc in there for the Wi-Fi cards. Yeah, it's still in there. We'll put in the Gigabyte driver disc. And once I get all these drivers going, then I'm going to go ahead and put the Wi-Fi card in and load the driver. I expect we're going to see a completely different result than what you saw on the other machine. Windows 7 is supported until January of 2020. Any operating system prior to Windows 7 is no longer supported, and therefore I can't support it. If Microsoft doesn't support it, there's no tools or utilities that I can provide to secure the system and to make sure that the customer is safe. And therefore, since I cannot accept that responsibility or that liability or accountability, you can go hire some tech off Craigslist to do that for you if that's what you want, or you can do it yourself. But I won't be involved in anything that dangerous that could result in somebody's identity being stolen. Now I want to go to the optical drive here, which it sounds like it's spinning up pretty good there. Let's view. Customer has their view kind of strange. I want to see. Maybe it's this button over here. Is this the one? No, that's not the one. One of these. That's the one. Was that the one? Why am I having such a hard time? Layout, navigation pane, that's what I wanted. Now I can select my computer icon. Oh, darn TeamViewer. Let's exit TeamViewer again. And I'm going to do the auto run. Well, the gsetup.exe, which is fine. Yes. Close that. And then this will start here momentarily and we can select all the drivers. Yeah, if you want the most painless installation experience and you don't want to deal with the drivers, you don't want to deal with compatibility issues, with brand new hardware, the latest hardware that you've bought in the last 2 or 3 years, you definitely want Windows 10. It doesn't really matter if you don't like it. The whole world has switched over to it. And if you don't like it, you've got 2 more years of Windows 7, which is obviously going to run better on an older computer designed for Windows 7. Or you switch to Apple or you switch to Linux. That's it. Those are your only choices. Or you just get rid of a computer, just use your tablet or smartphone. But I will say that when you take the time to learn Windows 10, it's worth learning it, and you'll realize it's not as bad as you think it is. And as for the privacy concerns, well, there's just no getting around that on anything. Your phone is one of the worst things you could possibly have with regards to that. One of the issues we're running into right now is this motherboard does not support Windows 7, and so therefore the drivers and software section is going to be very limited. You'll see that it's only offering me Google Drive and Google Chrome, which are not drivers, and Google Toolbar is not a driver. The Microsoft .NET Framework is not a driver, and Norton Internet Security is not a driver, and the Intel Management Engine software is not a driver. But there is an INF utility, which is a driver, a Microsoft Hotfix, Realtek Audio, Realtek LAN, the Intel Rapid Storage Technology driver, and that is it. There's no video driver. And Malwarebytes is saying our database is out of date, but I don't even think the date and time are set yet on this. So let's just make sure these boxes are all checked. And that the other boxes are not checked. Yeah, looks good. So then I hit Express Install. Don't like this Express Install because it implies you're installing everything. I'd like to see a button renamed that says Install Selected Drivers and Software versus Express Install, which just sounds like just hit one button, we'll take care of it for you. So here we have the unsupported hardware. This is going to come up on Windows 7 with any modern computer. There's a fix for that. I'm just going to ignore it for right now. That's just it's just a thing Microsoft marketing is doing. There's no incompatibility technically that really exists. So it's easy to get around that. Have you ever worked on supercomputers? This is a supercomputer. Look at it. And it's super. I like it. I'd be happy with this. It's kind of a nice medium between mini ITX and mid-tower, you know. It's a little too big and a little too heavy to be considered portable, yet it's much more portable than other mid-towers that I've ever seen. And it's all aluminum, so it's in a really quality material. So we're going through the install here. We're just going to wait for that to finish before I can continue. We're getting there. We are getting there. I think while that's doing that, I can put my Acronis flash drive away so I will know where it is the next time I need it. There's one benefit about OCD. You always know where stuff is. All right. Gives me something to do while I'm waiting for drivers to load. Stream on Twitch so I can donate bits. I do have a stream on Twitch. I just can't stream to both places at the same time, and I've been focusing on YouTube lately because I get more viewers. I'm just not very popular on Twitch yet. Creole Red says, "Hey Carrie, love your work. You're very informative." Thank you. Thank you. Gary says hello from Indiana. There was a $6 donation and someone said something with it. I didn't see it. Did anybody catch it? Michael McAllister, $5. Considering USB sticks are so cheap, it's surprised they're not more commonly used by manufacturers more than discs. Discs are still cheaper. Eventually, they're just going to have a piece of paper with a website on it that's going to say, go here and do this. Thank you, Douglas. Eddie Sawyers is saying hello from Knoxville. Stephen Sheik. Yeah, I saw that one, Douglas. Thank you. Stephen had contributed $20 and said, love your vids. All right, we're finally getting booted up. So one of the things that I've noticed Gigabyte doesn't put on their driver disk for Windows 7 on these modern boards is the Intel HD graphics driver that's built onto the Intel CPU. But you can go on the web, you can do a search for Intel Update Utility. It's a free software utility that will check your system automatically for any updates available for anything Intel on your system, your chipset, your video card, your hard drive controller, anything that's an Intel-based chip. It's just one utility. You download and install it. Just type into Google. And it's important you use Google, not other search engines, if you want the right result on top. And just type in Intel Driver Updater or Intel Driver Update. I don't know why this desktop takes a while to load. This should be loading a lot faster, but again, we just have installed drivers, so I just am probably a bit impatient and waiting for it. TeamViewer's trying to connect. So now it's installing the Realtek audio driver. In the old days, it was really important. You took old drivers out. It's not really important since Windows 7. It's good to free up space, but you can do that after. You can look through your program, install programs, and remove any old drivers you recognize. If you had a Realtek driver and now it's installing a different Realtek driver, you should only see one in your programs and features, and I would just say leave it alone. It's 10 o'clock in the morning in India. Wow. So 12 hours? It can't be 10:08. That doesn't make any sense. I think you're reading your clock wrong. Because it's 20 to 10 here, so it might be 20 to 10 there, just PM versus AM. As far as I know, time zones change by the hour, not by the minute. Well, maybe they meant to say 10:38 AM. Maybe that's what they meant. No, it says India is 5.5. I've never seen a time zone that was on a half an hour. Guess I learned something new tonight. Some time zones are in half of an hour, 0.5 increments. Never knew that. That's what everybody asks, right? When back before the internet, if you ever talked to anybody long distance on the phone, there were always two questions you asked. What time is it over there, and what's your weather like? And of course, you don't have to do that with the internet. You just type in where you want on Google, the city or the country. I guess depending on the size of the country, you may have to be more specific, and then with the word time or with the word weather. Drivers are taking a while. And another reboot's coming up. "6 a.m. in Greece." I don't want to put a light on me because it's going to reflect off the screen. I want you to be able to try and see the screen as much as possible since I can't zoom in on it. We're getting there. We are getting there. The good news is at least I've resolved my blue screen errors with the streaming machine for now. So I don't have those constant interruptions I was having where right in the middle of a stream my computer would blue screen out. Below 0 Fahrenheit in central Minnesota. Yeah. That's the one thing, no matter, if anybody ever complained about how cold it was in Detroit, we just said, at least we don't live in Minnesota. No matter how cold we think it is, at least we don't live in Minnesota. Are you going to reuse the old Core i5? The Core i5 will go into a stack with all my other processors. I don't know that the chip is good or not. Same with the RAM. The battery from the motherboard will be removed. The board will go to a friend of mine who strips the metals off of them for recycling. So everything gets reused in some way, shape, or form. I don't anticipate having any machines coming in with DDR3, but if I do, the RAM is fine, so I could always perhaps maybe upgrade somebody if it's compatible with what they already have, or if they have bad RAM. You know, DDR3 is pretty pricey, so it'd be good to have it on hand for that. Because we don't have a network connection plugged into it, TeamViewer is trying to connect, because I have instructed TeamViewer to behave that way. I want these customers who are not technical people, don't know what remote access is or how to get it configured, so I configure it before they get the computer if they're a regular customer of mine, so that I can help them instantly when they call me for help. As long as their internet works and the computer boots up, I can help them remotely. So, trying to get them to go to the TeamViewer website, download and install TeamViewer, it often takes longer than the thing I need to get done once TeamViewer is installed. Would you like to install the device Intel Universal Serial Bus? Yes, install it. That's the USB 3.0 driver for the 200 series chipset. I can't believe that motherboard is $39.99 on sale right now at Amazon and Newegg. I know I sound like a commercial, but it's a really good deal. It's just on sale today, tomorrow, through Friday. And after Friday, it goes back to $69.99. Install finished. Please reboot your computer. Okay. Shut down, restart. All right, one more reboot here, and then we can get to work on that Wi-Fi card, huh? Actually updated one of my clients. They had a new BIOS version available, and I used the Windows Flash utility to update it. And then when it rebooted, it wouldn't boot anymore because the controller changed. I don't know why manufacturers would set the default controller to IDE instead of AHCI. So I had to get in the car and drive over to his place because he couldn't possibly follow my instructions for going into the BIOS. So I had to get in my car, drive over there to push a couple of buttons, set it back to AHCI. It was my own fault, and I knew when I was doing it. I thought, if this resets back to IDE, I just thought about it. I'm going to be driving over there. But I thought it was worth doing just to prevent future problems. That sucked, driving all that way just to push a couple buttons. On the other hand, I suppose it would have sucked worse if I ended up having to take the thing home to fix it. Then I would have made another trip over there. We're almost booted back up here. Just about done. I keep the DVD in the drive until the desktop comes back up. I've experienced some driver installs where on the final boot up, if I take the DVD out too soon, it's still looking for something on the DVD. I don't know what it is. I don't remember which motherboards had that problem, so I just make it a habit to always do it that way. Sort of a trained behavior, like ringing a bell when it's dinner time. Pavlov's dogs. Okay. Now it's reloaded. It's redetected the solid state drive again because the hard drive controller the driver has been updated. So we have to restart again for that driver update to take effect. That's why I say just because you have built a machine and it's booting doesn't mean that you've done it correctly, that it's running at 100%. With the latest hard drive controller drivers, the newer ones versus the ones that Windows 7 has, it's going to make a big difference on a solid state drive connected through SATA, because Windows 7 wasn't designed for that. It just wasn't designed for solid state drives. And so the built-in drivers, they're going to work in a very it's like safe mode. Just because your screen comes up doesn't mean you're getting optimal graphics performance until you load your GPU specific driver. Only that one's obvious. The other one's not so much. I've seen computers that people build and I go, well, this is wrong and this is wrong. And they go, really? It's been working. I go, well, it's going to work a lot better now. That always makes me feel good to give somebody back their machine and it's like they got a brand new computer. And, you know, they never complain that they didn't get their money's worth. All right. Everything's booted up here. I need to plug in the Wi-Fi card. So let's do that. First of all, let me take the driver DVD out. Let's get that out of there. Put that back in the bag. I'll set that right there for now. And let's go ahead and shut the computer down. And let me grab the Wi-Fi card. I've got that back here. And I'm going to need a screwdriver. And I'm going to need one of the screws to secure the Wi-Fi card. There's that. Orlando Brave has contributed $10. Thank you for your contribution, Orlando. I appreciate that. Let's see if I can get you some light in here. And what I have to do, I'm going to install in this little PCI x1 slot. So I'm going to remove this little cover and I'm going to put it up above where we don't have a slot. Just move it. Right there. There it is. And I'm gonna make sure the switch is off on the power supply because I don't want to short anything out when I plug this Wi-Fi card in. That's gonna go in just like that, and then we'll secure it. Flip the switch, turn it on. And I have that driver disc right here. We're going to do the exact same thing you saw me do in part 1. Same card, same driver, though I predict the computer's reaction is not going to be the same. It better not be. It better just work. This was all this was about, was this darn Wi-Fi thing. But obviously there's a deeper problem with that motherboard than just Wi-Fi. All right, so let me go back to DVD drive. What do you mean, please insert? Oh, yeah, I guess I have to put the disk in, don't I? It'll probably auto run now. There we go. We'll just use auto run. Install driver and utility. All this should look familiar for those of you who watched part 1. Same exact process. I'm going to shut down TeamViewer again. So Windows tried to auto install the driver for that Wi-Fi card, but it doesn't have one, so it fails. That's normal. It's asking if we want to run setup. Yes, we do. I can close this. I don't need this open. So now all that's running is the TP-Link wireless adapter software. It notices we've already installed it from before, so we're just going to go ahead and choose repair. It's going to reinstall the driver again. Give it a minute. It says that the driver's installed. Let's take a quick look in the device manager. Because the Wi-Fi is not showing up yet. So we have a network controller here that's not, I'll tell you what probably happened is I was too quick, that Windows was trying to load the driver. I'm not sure. So I'm going to try and load the driver manually. I'm going to hit Update Driver, Browse. It's still remembering from last time the file location, which is still the same, pointing to the optical drive, which will. It says it found the driver, but it encountered an error while attempting to install it, which is not a good sign. So now we've got an exclamation point next to the driver, or next to the device. So I think what I want to do at this point is reboot. So let's restart and see if we have any better luck on the reboot now that the driver's been put in. But what it didn't do was the screen didn't freak out. It's having a little trouble starting the network card. So we're going to find out in just a moment. I have other wireless cards. This isn't the only Wi-Fi card I had tried. Ooh, didn't like something. It wants to check the disk. We'll let it check the disk. It doesn't bother me. Not sure why that came on. In part one of the video, I did a clean install of Windows 7 onto a spare hard drive to know that it wasn't a problem with any software. So I think some of your questions will be answered if you go back and watch part one. Well, it's finding some problems, so we'll go ahead and let it do what it wants to do there. It's actually finding problems with the network drivers. Those are the files it's pulling up here are the INF file and the catalog file, which I think are for the Wi-Fi card. So that's why when Windows wants to do that, let it do it. You'll see it didn't take very long to run. This is a brand new Wi-Fi card. I'm sure it works fine. There was definitely something wrong with the motherboard. Like I said, even with the Wi-Fi card removed, just trying to load the LAN driver for the wired LAN caused the system to freak out like that. That was all part of the diagnostics that I did earlier. Okay. Let's take another look at the device manager. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I know some of you just go into the run box and run the device manager. I like going this way around it. I'm going to have to reload the graphics driver, which is fine, that's no big deal. But I need an internet connection to do that first, to download the Intel driver updater I mentioned earlier. I see TeamViewer hasn't loaded yet, so the system's still loading. There it goes. It's trying to connect on the LAN, and it's holding everything up. That's it. Excuse me. It's exit TeamViewer again. Any minute now. Should be in the device manager. There's our TP-Link adapter. Let's uninstall it. Driver. Uninstall. Delete the driver. And then refresh. It doesn't know. It knows it's a network controller. It doesn't know what it is. Go to driver, update driver, browse my computer, browse to the DVD drive. Windows 7 64-bit on the WDN 4800. That all looks correct. Try this one more time. Probably should reboot in between deleting the driver and reinstalling it. Oh, it's working. We're good. So now if I close this out, click here, we see a list of all the networks, and it's working just like it's supposed to. Now, what I have to do next is reactivate Windows and reactivate Microsoft Office. The customer will have to get on the phone with Quicken or QuickBooks, whichever one they have, because I'm certain that's not going to work anymore. I'm going to download the Intel driver updater to put the video driver on, and I've got to remove the other side panel to give myself some slack for the card reader to plug into USB 2. But then the empty hard drive cage can go back in. We're not using the drive that was in there, but you never know what the future holds, so I don't want to just throw it away or toss it aside. We're going to keep it in there because you never know. The customer might want some, their needs may change. They may want some storage. You never know. It'll probably never be used, but I'm going to put it back. And that's it. Everything works. Everything is, this is all the customer, this is all I thought I was going to have to do was just go in and slap a Wi-Fi card in and be done. And it just turned into this whole big project. And as you can see, everything's running like it should. We've got this front fan turning now that we've found the fan header down there with your help from the audience. CPU fans turning. Everything's nice and quiet. They went from 8 gigs of RAM to 16 now. I mean, why not? Let's make the best of it. We went from, what was it, a Core i5 4430. Now we're in a 7th gen, whatever I said it was. All the parts to everything that I've used today are in the list below the video, as well as the other previous videos, the things I discussed. If you look there and something that I said I would put there isn't there, just leave a comment in the video section. Just leave a comment. I will see it and I'll get it fixed. The unsupported hardware, we've addressed this in other videos. There's a utility, which I got to remember to put the link in the video notes, but I already have a video covering this particular error. It's called WU, which is short for Windows Update, and then FUC, which I think is Fix Upgrade Center or Update Center. So WUFUC. If you type that into Google, it's going to take you right to the website. You'll even see a few articles that are published about it. It's a freeware utility, open source. You download it, and this error goes away, and Windows Update works just fine on Windows 7, and it works on Windows 8 as well. So that's pretty much it. So I think that's going to wrap up the stream. It's about to just turn 10 o'clock here. For everybody who's contributed tonight, I can't thank you enough for your contributions. It really does help, and you know, putting your money where your mouth is really means a lot to me. It's great that people say they enjoy the channel, but I know when you're contributing your hard-earned dollars to support the channel, you really mean it. Not that the other people don't, but I'm just saying, I know for a fact, undoubtedly, you really mean it. And so when I tell you that means a lot to me, I really mean that. And you know, I never ask for anything really from you guys, so anything I receive is just really appreciated. And you guys were you've been very generous this week, and wish I could shake all of your hands. I really do. Ringo Stars contributed $2. I will say that for those who have contributed significant amounts, if you'd like to send me a message, you can send a personal message on YouTube, or you can reach out to me through Facebook. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, I will give you my phone number, and I will be happy to talk with you. Since you have, if you've contributed $100 or more, you're just like a customer, and you have my time and attention, and I would really enjoy talking to you as well. Unfortunately, there is only one of me, so I can't talk to everybody, and that's just the only way I can fairly divide my time is to try and give back to the people who give. So thank you again. For everybody in the chat, looks like we've got about 399 people. We are one short of 400. We've been there for some time. So thank you guys for staying up late or being up early for joining me. The stream will be available once YouTube has processed it for you to go back and rewatch again and again. And I think that is going to wrap it up. Everything else I've got to do, there's really nothing to watch. Installing a graphics driver, installing the WUFUC utility. I already covered that. In fact, all this has been covered in previous videos. A little minor cable management adjustment. Putting the hard drive cage back in. Putting the side panel back on. Give it back to the customer. That's it. And again, the activations of certain software, which may require a call to Microsoft with their automated system if it doesn't if it doesn't do it over the internet automatically, and it says, sorry, this isn't going to activate. Don't freak out. There's an 800 number or toll-free number that you call, and as long as you've installed the Windows on just one computer, that's all they want to make sure. They'll give you a manual activation code you can type in. Carrie, can I sponsor a question? You're welcome to ask any questions. Obviously, people who contribute, I try and give them a little something back in return for trying to return the favor. But I'd say if you have a question, just ask it. You don't have to sponsor anything. Can I sponsor a build? It depends what your company is. If your company, if you're sponsoring it personally, of course. If you're doing it on behalf of a company, I've got to make sure that the company is something that can be associated with my channel. Of course. You can reach out to me on the Facebook fan page. You can send a personal message there. You can send a message here through YouTube to discuss that in more detail. Spectre7734 has contributed $2. Looks like New Zealand. Is that NZ? Merry Christmas, he says. Well, Merry Christmas to you. And just looking for any final comments. Business-related matters, really recommend you send a private message. You can send a private message through YouTube to me. You'll have to watch for your response. You can also use the Facebook fan page, or you can send me a friend request personally on Facebook. And again, either way, send a private message, and then we can go forward from there. I would love sponsor opportunities if it's the right sponsor. And just looking back, the can has contributed again, 20 Canadian dollars. It says cheers and good night. Thank you, the can. Spencer says, you were the dude I watched you to build all my computers. If I wasn't in a tough spot, I'd love to donate. I totally get it, Spencer. I appreciate, kind words go a long way. Support goes a long way. Moral support. And, you can always share links to the videos on your social media platforms. I'm always up for more subscribers. I'm really disappointed that it's been almost a year and I've only gained, I think, 39,000 subscribers. That may sound like a lot, but when other tech YouTubers have 2-3 million, and I don't even have, I have like a tenth of that, it's a little discouraging. But I just have to be patient and hope that my videos will, if they're shared enough on social media, will eventually start building up an audience. I know if other tech channels have 3 million viewers, I should be able to have 3 million viewers, or pretty close to it. People don't know. People don't know I exist. So, admittedly, that 39,000 is probably the fastest I've gained 39,000. But I was really hoping to see that in 3 months, not in almost a year. So I really thought it would start to exponentially grow. But I suppose it has a little bit. I just need to be patient. In the meantime, you guys are the ones here in the beginning. Many of you were here way, way back, and your loyalty and your support just means the world. So thank you so much. And I'm going to let you go. This is it. And I will be back. Remember, I want to remind you one last time before I go. Friday, December 29th, it'll be 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to be doing a Ryzen build, a mini ITX, with my niece. She's never been on my YouTube channel before. You'll get to meet my niece. She's in college. She needs a little computer for the dorm room, mostly for schoolwork and maybe some light RPG gaming. And so we're going to be building that together. Well, she'll be building it. I'll be telling her what to do. I like that job, telling people what to do. It's fun. And then, of course, when she's done, she's probably going to want to build another one. So we'll see if that turns into anything. But in the meantime, I do hope you'll tune in for that live stream Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm estimating the time. That's when I want to get started. A lot of things can postpone it, but just watch for it. I don't often schedule these live streams. They happen when they happen. So this is a rare opportunity where I can have a general idea of when it's going to be live. So I want you guys to have a heads up so you can look forward to that if it interests you. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. For all the contributors, thank you. Thank you so much. Namaste. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.